Snow. I love it. Some people hate it. And to those people, I say, what the hell is wrong with you? You telling me you don't like being cold and you don't like your car slipping and sliding through intersections without your consent? Who are you? All jokes aside though, winter is one of my favorite seasons right next to fall, but we won't fall into that conversation. Yo, what the hell? Just seeing that first snowfall and knowing that it's time to put on my winter hat and coat and jump right in my car and slip and slide all the way up to Frankenmuth, Michigan, aka Christmastown, USA. You know what I'm saying, Michigan, only to come home to hunker down with some good old video games. And you know what else I love? Snow levels in my video games. God, who would have thunk it? Maybe I should put it in the title of the video or something, somewhere. You know what? Let's have a seat in front of the fire and talk about it, shall we? Snow levels in video games are the best because you get this feeling of winter at all hours of the year. I'm talking about throwing snowballs. I'm talking about building snowboards. I'm talking about half of the map in Skyrim. Now, a lot of snow levels, like the better half of Skyrim over here, are just simply that, Winter Wonderland levels, and I love it. For example, we have Diddy Kong Racing, which you can Tokyo Drift past the coziest looking village I think I've ever seen, tonight at 11. I just love that Diddy Kong Racing teases you with the snowy levels, with this little snowy tunnel that's just on top of a cliff, and you're just sitting there staring at it like, oh, I wonder where that goes. I can't get through there with my car. Maybe I'll need a plane. Oh, what's that? You can use a plane. You fly through that, and it's just like you're transported to another world. All of the levels in this area are really cool. My favorite, of course, being Frosty Village, because I just really love this cozy little village that you drive by, which I literally just mentioned 5 seconds ago, but I'm going to mention it again, and maybe later at 11. I also really like Snowball Valley because of this ice tunnel you can go through, and it just looks really cool when you go through. And then, of course, there's a Snowball Valley where you can get crushed by giant snowballs. Who would have thunk it with the name Snowball Valley? Don't get crushed. This is also the level where you can find the key that unlocks the battle mode snow levels, which, I mean, the battle mode, you know, it's okay. But, like, finding the key itself in this level was just a really fun experience for me as a kid. The final boss for this area is a giant walrus, and you kind of just do this slip and slide downhill domination race of this mountain. You're slipping and sliding through these ice tunnels down the mountain, and it's really cool and it's awesome. And, like, I didn't mention it before, but, like, the music that it plays in the snow levels is like the actual definition of slaps. Now, Diddy Kong Racing's winter levels were very interesting, and I always wanted to explore more of that world, but unfortunately there's not more of that world to explore. However, Rare, who made Diddy Kong Racing, made another game that looks very similar in art style that you may have heard of. It's called Banjo-Kazooie, and if you played the game, you know exactly where this next part is going, because Freeze Easy Peak is a phenomenal winter level, and on top of that, a Christmas level, and it's not subtle about it, unlike Diddy Kong Racing over here. In Freeze Easy Peak, you can actually play as Santa Claus as you collect these presents to give to these little baby bears. There's also a Christmas tree that you could help put lights on, and of course, there's plenty and plenty of present platforms all over the map. In the center of the map, there's a giant snowman to remind you, hey, it's Christmas, bitch. And if that wasn't enough of a reminder for you, there's plenty of other snowmen around the map just lobbing snowballs at you, thinking that they won't catch these hands. They will. They will catch these hands. There's even a snowed-in village that kind of reminds me of Frosty Village from Diddy Kong Racing, which, speaking of racing, you get to race a polar bear as a baby walrus, but the baby walrus doesn't, you know, slide down on his belly like you'd expect a walrus to do, but instead he gets a little sled and you just bounce down the racetrack on it, and it's adorable as fuck. This was also the level with the infamous ice key, which, if you don't know, the ice key was completely inaccessible and it was a gaming mystery for years, and people were trying to figure out, how do you get the ice key? What's it for? What's it supposed to do? And it turns out Rare was trying to do this thing called Stop and Swap, which was basically you would rip your N64 game cartridge out, you put another game in, and some of the data from the first game would do something in the second game. But since that's like, you know, kind of like a janky way of like trying to do something on the N64, I mean, it didn't come to fruition. So like for years that was a gaming mystery. But you know what's not a mystery? Siberia, because it's a real place, it's a real snowy, and it's a really fun location in both Time Splitters 2 and 3. Siberia is the first level of Time Splitters 2, and I'll be damned if it's not a good level. I didn't really realize how punny that was in the script with like it's a dam in the level, but it's staying in. This level starts off with an ominous cutscene where you see two boys looking around a research center with flashlights. They then run into a zombie, point their flashlights at it, and scream as they drop their flashlights, and then run away, and the cutscene just ends. And then you take control of a spy as the level begins. Now you could run through this level running and gunning and have a great time. However, you can also take out guards stealthily and shoot out cameras and turn cameras off. And like it's pretty basic stealth mechanics, but this was like one of the first games that I played that had them, so it was very impressive to me at the time. You then get into the research center where you find a couple zombies, you turn on the power, you release some more zombies into the facility, and like the guards and the zombies start fighting each other, and I just thought it was like so cool, like one of the first times I played it, just seeing the guards and the zombies fighting each other. You even get to see the two guys from the intro cutscene as zombified versions of themselves in the research center. Now, Siberia in Future Perfect was a completely different story because it wasn't a single-player level, but instead a multiplayer level, and I think it stood out in comparison to all the other multiplayer levels in Future Perfect for a couple reasons. One of the reasons was because it was a huge open map, which could be a problem if it wasn't so open. It was just this giant frozen over lake, and there was plenty of good spots for you to hide and snipe, so it really kind of just turned into a giant sniper fight in this map. But what really made this level stand out is the fact that this was the only level in the multiplayer that had a car in it. So yes, you could just snipe around the map and have a great time, or you could do what me and my friends did, which was one of us would assume the role of taxi driver and they would just drive around the map in the car. They would pick other players up, they would drop them off at other bunkers to go in there and assault, pick people back up, just take them to like ammo spots, whatever you needed to happen, they would take you there. They were the taxi driver. But then we would also do this thing called dive bomber runs, which, I mean, obviously you can reasonably assume where this is going. We would get the remote mines and we would tag a player up, and that player would get in the shotgun seat of the car, and the driver would drive them to some place. They would jump out, the bomber would jump out of the car, and then the driver would blow them up once they went into the bunker and got near some players. And then there was also the other version of it where we would just throw all the bombs on the car, and then we would send the car in as the bomb, and the car would just like flip up in the air and it would spin out of control, and it was crazy, stupid fun. Now, a lot of snow levels, like all the ones mentioned up until this point, are just simple snow levels where you get the Winter Wonderland atmosphere, but then there are other types of snow levels where snow becomes a mechanic in the game. Like, for example, it could be as simple as Red Dead Redemption 2 being able to see your footprints in the snow, or building a snowman in Animal Crossing, or being able to pick up and throw snowballs like in GTA 5's Winter Update and the tutorial for The Last of Us 2.
You wanna fuck him up?
In the Frozen Altar level, Spyro Year of the Dragon, Spyro's fire-breathing ability gets swapped out for an ice-breathing ability. So now, instead of being able to burn people with your breath, Spyro can now instead freeze people with his breath, turning them into ice cubes that he can then headbutt and they just break. Also in this level, you have these giant snowmen, and obviously they're snowmen, so if you breathe your ice ability on them, it's not going to do anything. Like, that wouldn't make any sense. Your fire ability would have done great on them, but you don't have that. You have the ice breathing ability. So instead of being able to kill them with your breath or headbutting them or anything like that, there are these little light towers around the map, and you get in these towers and they reflect light and kind of like a laser beam, and you kind of just melt these snowmen with that, and I just thought it was really cool. In Human Fall Flats level Ice, you would expect to have a lot of cold mechanics and ice mechanics, but surprisingly, you get the opposite. You have these ice cubes around the map, and basically what you have to do is you have to take these ice cubes and you have to drag them through the shadows, because the moment they touch light, they immediately start melting, and you want to have them as big as possible so you can use them as platforms so you can continue on through the level. Later in the level, there's this really cool puzzle in a cave. Basically, you enter this cave and there's a giant stalactite. You then jump on the stalactite, pulling it down, exposing light into the cave. And then once you have that light, you grab this ice cube that has a stick, and then you melt that ice cube, grab the stick, set it on fire, and then you use that torch that you made to go over to the cave door and melt the ice off of it so you could leave. It's honestly really cool.
The ice is on the lever, not the door, you fucking idiot.
Do you not fucking know that? Okay, anyway, moving on. So we're going to talk about Gears of War now, because Gears of War does snow levels right. Snow, like the rest of the weather in Gears of War, is violent. Avalanche is probably one of the best maps in Gears of War, and as the name of Avalanche suggests, there's an avalanche that happens in it. It's a beautiful looking snow map, and there's a great spot for shooting mortars and sniping, but when you hear the sirens start going off halfway through the round, if you're up in that area, you're going to want to get out immediately, because the avalanche is going to completely decimate that area and then decimate everything in the middle of the map. And everything in the middle of the map kind of has like this dip down into it. So basically, if you're in there, you're completely like destroyed. You're going to be completely snowed in. You're going to be dead. You're going to be gone. Ain't nobody going to be thinking about you. But what I think is pretty cool about this map is after that happens, it opens up a new part of the map a little bit, because that middle area where it just completely snowed in, on top of one of the roofs of one of the buildings, and there's either a boom shot or a torque bow that previously you weren't able to get, but after the avalanche, it's just out there for anybody to take, and it just creates a really cool game mechanic because of this. Raven Down, on the other hand, wasn't originally a snow map. It was originally a map in Gears of War 1 that was well known for being a small, close quarters map that really encouraged shotgun battles, which Gears of War is also just known for. However, in Gears of War 3, it got a snowy twist to it, where it was the same map pretty much, however, it was covered in snow, and every so often a blizzard would roll in, making it really hard to see most things in front of you. So it like even further encouraged close quarters combat. But what made this map extra special is there was a Horde Easter egg for the Snow Elemental Cleaver. Basically all you had to do is you had to get 2 Horde command posts, and then you had to play a little game of hide and seek with the snowman. After you found him 3 times and you shot him, he then appears in this garage that you can open up, and once you open that garage door, his back is turned to you and he slowly turns his head around to face you. You then shoot him and the Elemental Cleaver appears. And basically once you have the Elemental Cleaver, it's just pretty much a regular cleaver, however, it has this frost ability to it, so you could use it as a normal cleaver, and everything's all fine. However, you could also hit enemies from a distance with it just by swinging it, since it had this little frost effect to it. But one of the best parts of this Easter egg, I think, is just the snowman that you're playing hide and seek with. He's just an absolute fool. His voice lines are just silly, and they're dumb, and I love them.
You lost your hand!
Okay, yeah, just a little further. Oh, yeah! Yeah, there you go! Whoa! You are the king of suckitude!
But of the Gears of War games, I think Gears of War 5 does the snow levels the best, seeing as a big portion of this game is just exploring a giant frozen wonderland, and all the characters just look so adorable in their winter armor. I'm looking at you, Marcus. Mwah! The wind flares even have their own wintry twist to them. So basically the wind flares are already pretty bad in Gears of War, but in the snowy areas they do this cool thing where they shoot down a bunch of little icicles in one spot, and then this giant just hunk of ice just plants down in that spot, and it's just cool because previously in those areas there wasn't any cover, and then these giant hunks of ice become cover in the battle, and then of course there's these giant balls of ice that come rolling through the wind and everything, and it's just really cool. But I think by far my favorite ice mechanic in the game is this.
Careful on that ice!
it's just so fast and like unexpected. Like when you plunge the enemies into the depths of the ice, you don't really think twice about it, but when it happens to you, it just happens so fast and like you didn't expect it. And honestly, it's a little bit hilarious, but that could also be my morbid sense of humor. They also carried this mechanic into the multiplayer map Icebound. Now obviously it's a multiplayer map, it's not going to be as violent as it is in the campaign, but instead it's the same mechanic, but the ice that you break is in extremely shallow waters, so like when you break it you can still stand in it, but if you stand in it too long you're going to turn into a giant block of ice and people can just destroy you. But I think something that's like not super well known that you can do in this level that's kind of awesome is they have a gun called the cryo cannon, which is just a giant freeze gun, and with this gun you can freeze over broken ice, which there's not really a whole lot of use for that. I just thought it was a really cool mechanic that exists in the game. Anyway, that's enough about Gears of War for now. Let's move on and talk about warmth as a game mechanic, which basically means, oh no, you could freeze to death in the game like you could in real life. Oh shit, it just got real in here. We better bundle up. Just kidding. It's too hot in here. I was gonna put on a winter coat. I was gonna be really cute for like the end part of this video when I was talking about like freezing to death with like my winter coat on, but like it's too hot here. I'm not gonna do it, guys. I'm not gonna do it. I'm sorry. Anyway, so Rise of the Tomb Raider has this survival mode called Endurance Mode, where you have to eat, you have to stay warm, you have to try to find as many artifacts from tombs as you can, and then you have to set up a signal flare to escape. Now, obviously, in this mode, you could just skip straight to the signal flare, which is pretty fucking lame, but I think it's really cool to try to see how many artifacts you can get, and then there's also these objectives you could set up before you even get in there, and they could range from anything where it's like, oh, I'm gonna kill this many animals, I'm gonna kill a certain type of animal, I'm gonna collect this many artifacts, blah blah blah, before I send out the signal flare to pretty much get saved. Damn, alright, Tomb Raider, you pretty fun. Don't Starve is another great example of heat mechanics, because the winter in Don't Starve comes fast and it comes hard, and if you're not ready for it, it will absolutely destroy your Don't Starve run. So basically, you're going to need three things. You're going to need a fully stocked fridge, you're going to need a jacket, and you're going to need a thermal stone, because once the winter comes, farming is not an option. You're basically going to have to hunt for food, and even then it's still pretty hard, so you're going to want that fully stocked fridge, and if you want to go anywhere, you're going to need that jacket and you're going to need that thermal stone, because without that thermal stone, you're just going to be like too cold and you're not going to be able to go very far, and it's just going to be like so much harder for you. And like even with that stuff, it's still very hard to survive in the winter in Don't Starve. It's just the hardest season in the game. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please let me know down in the comment section below what you love about snow levels, and until next time, bye bye.